Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're switching gears a bit today for a deep dive into the world of deal making, as told by Donald Trump himself in The Art of the Deal.
Now, right off the bat, I know what you might be thinking.
Politics.
Exactly.
But hold on, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Right. We're purely interested in the business strategies and the philosophies he lays out.
Exactly. It's like, think of it as decoding the playbook of a businessman who made a name for himself in that high-stakes world of New York real estate.
Yeah, it's a fascinating glimpse into sort of the 80s
Oh, yeah.
and how business was done then.
Like a time capsule almost.
Yes.
And what's so cool about this book is it's firsthand.
Yeah.
So we get to understand how he thought through decisions, the strategies, even some of the setbacks, right?
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I found really interesting right off the bat was his description of just a typical week.
Oh, forget about typical. The man never stops. We're talking over 100 phone calls a day, meetings rapid fire, working through lunch, weekends.
It's a very interesting approach because it's very much fueled by instinct and momentum. So he talks about making decisions on the fly, seizing opportunities as they arise, and just constantly keeping that pace going.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from these unorthodox tactics either.
No, not at all.
There's that story about a family farm facing foreclosure, and the way he basically pressures the bank, it was a pretty bold tactic, I have to say.
Well, he basically threatened to sue for an outrageous sum if they didn't reconsider the foreclosure.
Yeah.
So, while we're not condoning that type of approach, it does illustrate that willingness to think outside the box
Yeah.
and to really use any type of leverage that he could to achieve his objectives.
Makes you think about the limits of negotiation, right?
Absolutely.
And the ethical considerations.
Yeah, definitely something to think about.
All right, so let's talk deal making, because that's what this book is all about.
Yeah.
He lays out these core principles.
He does.
Thinking big, being relentless, use your leverage, maximize your options, know your market.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how these all connect together. Like, think big isn't just about, setting goals.
Right.
It's about understanding the potential,
Oh, I see.
even if other people aren't seeing that potential.
Uh-huh.
And that also connects to knowing your market,
Yeah.
because you have to understand the nuance of the market in order to see what other people aren't seeing.
Yeah, it's not just common sense,
Right.
There's a real confidence, a boldness to how he approaches these things.
Absolutely.
Like the Commodore Hotel, now the Grand Hyatt.
Yeah.
I mean, this hotel was a disaster.
Yeah, it had fallen into disrepair. The neighborhood wasn't so great.
Totally. Most people saw a lost cause, but not Trump.
Well, he envisioned this complete transformation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a renovation. It was turning it into this luxury destination, which in turn revitalized the entire area.
It's those principles in action, right?
It is.
Thinking big, relentless pursuit of this vision, and knowing that New York was ready for a comeback, especially a luxury hotel in that location.
And that's key too, right? He knew his market.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about intuition. He understood how to make it work financially too.
Oh, yeah. Navigating the city, the partners, lenders, it's a lot.
He knew how to work the system, so he negotiated those tax abatements from the city.
Right. Which, for those who don't know, is basically like a tax break to incentivize the development.
Exactly, and they made the project financially viable.
Yeah, but he made sure it was a win-win.
Yes.
He's always emphasizing the benefits for the city.
Yeah, the job creation, the eventual increase in tax revenue.
Right, the whole revitalization.
Absolutely.
So he understood that a good deal should benefit everyone involved.
It should.
It's fascinating how he balanced his instincts with his real estate knowledge.
Yeah.
Where do you think he learned that?
Well, he often credits his father, Fred Trump, as a major influence.
Yeah, Fred was a successful developer too, right? More residential properties.
Yeah, in Brooklyn and Queens.
Yeah, and he instilled in Donald the importance of hard work, attention to detail, and knowing your numbers.
Absolutely, and that's a key point because understanding construction costs, financial management, that came from Fred.
Oh, yeah, and I love that story about how Fred would inspect every single apartment he built.
I know, isn't that...
Even checking the prices of like mops and floor wax.
Exactly. He wanted to know where every dollar was going.
Yeah, that meticulousness really rubbed off on Donald.
It did.
But it's interesting though, right? Because you have Fred with this grounded approach.
Yeah, steady returns, outer boroughs. He was happy with that.
Yeah, and then you have Donald who's drawn to these high-profile, glamorous projects.
He wanted Manhattan.
Yeah. The big stage.
He took those practical lessons from his father and applied them to a much grander scale.
Yeah, like he needed to prove himself,
Oh, absolutely.
make a name for himself.
Right.
All right, so we've got this picture of Trump, the relentless deal maker, shaped by his father and his own vision, but before he conquered Manhattan,
Yeah.
he had this surprising early deal.
He did.
Swifton Village, an apartment complex in Cincinnati.
Right, and this was while he was still a college student.
I know. Talk about an early start.
It really shows his knack for spotting those opportunities.
Yeah, the ones everyone else missed.
Yeah, and he wasn't afraid to just dive right in.
All right, so picture this. Young Trump looking at foreclosure listings, not for class, but for deals.
He was already on the hunt.
Yeah, he finds this massive complex in Cincinnati.
Which is pretty far from New York, by the way.
Oh, yeah, totally different world. And what caught his eye was that the government wanted to get rid of this property so badly.
They were practically begging someone to take it.
Yeah, that's where that leverage comes in.
Absolutely.
He knew their desperation gave him the upper hand in negotiating.
Right.
So he partners with his father, they get the property for a steal, and get this, they don't even put any of their own money down.
That's creative financing right there.
Huh? Yeah, they use the government's desire to unload the property to secure this amazing loan.
High risk, but it paid off big time.
Oh, yeah, but here's the thing. Getting the property was just the first step.
Right, because Swifton Village was a mess.
Oh, yeah, maintenance issues,
Yep.
mismanagement.
So he had to add value.
He had to make it profitable.
Exactly.
So he focuses on improving the property, addressing all those issues, making it a better place for tenants.
It's a strategy he used over and over again, make it better, make it worth more.
Right, add value, that's the key. And then there's this character, Irving, the building manager,
Right.
described as a, well, bullshit artist, but also a really effective operator.
He knew how to get things done.
Yeah, deal with tenants, keep those costs down, the kind of street smarts that Trump really valued.
Not about fancy degrees.
No, just practical know-how.
Getting your hands dirty.
Yeah. So in this early deal, you see those seeds of his approach.
You do.
The boldness, the leverage, the risks, working with people who have those unique skills.
It's a great example of how deal-making isn't just about the numbers.
It's about understanding people.
Absolutely.
Knowing how to work with them.
And finding a way to align everyone's motivations.
Right, so now let's fast forward a bit. Trump sets his sights on Manhattan.
The ultimate test.
Yeah, the big leagues.
Right.
Armed with his father's lessons, his early wins, he's ready to make his mark.
It's a big step up in scale and ambition.
Oh yeah, this isn't Cincinnati anymore.
This is Manhattan real estate where the stakes are incredibly high.
And the competition is fierce.
Absolutely. But he thrived in that environment.
I know, he even says that in Manhattan, perception is everything.
Yeah, and he knew how to play that game.
Cultivating that image of success.
Using his family name, his growing reputation, to get access to those big deals.
And secure financing.
He understood the power of branding, even back then.
Yeah, so one of his first big targets, the Commodore Hotel.
The one he transformed into the Grand Hyatt.
Right, but getting that hotel was a fight.
Oh, there was resistance at every turn.
People doubting him, questioning his experience.
But, as always, he was relentless.
He just kept pushing.
He did, and this deal really shows his persistence and his strategic thinking.
He wasn't just throwing his weight around, he was building relationships.
Yeah.
Leveraging his connections, using his market knowledge to convince people that his vision was worth investing in.
And the partnership with Hyatt was huge.
Oh, yeah, that gave him credibility.
Major credibility.
And access to their expertise.
He showed he could attract those big players.
Yeah. Boosted his reputation.
Exactly.
And he used the city's desire for urban renewal to his advantage.
Oh, yeah. Positioning the project as key to revitalizing that whole area around Grand Central Station.
Genius. That's how he got those tax abatements.
It was a brilliant move.
It was a win-win. He got to develop this prime property.
And the city got a revitalized hotel and a boost to their economy.
So the Commodore deal, it's a prime example of how he combined instinct and a deep understanding of the real estate world.
He knew when to push, when to compromise, and how to use every opportunity to reach his goals.
And he wasn't afraid to take risks.
Calculated risks.
Right, he was willing to put his own money on the line.
Because he believed in his vision.
Yeah, and that brings us to another iconic property, the Bonwit-Teller site, future home of Trump Tower.
Oh yeah, this is a story about audacity.
Persistence.
And a little bit of luck.
All mixed together with that Trump style.
The Bonwit-Teller site. Prime real estate, 5th Avenue.
One of the most coveted shopping areas in the world.
Assembling all those properties, the zoning issues, monumental task.
But that's what made it exciting for Trump.
Oh, he loved a challenge.
All right, so he goes after Franklin German, CEO of Genesco. They owned Bonwit-Teller.
Okay.
Picture this. Trump, still relatively unknown in Manhattan, walks into Jarman's office, lays out his vision for this gleaming tower that would redefine Fifth Avenue.
Wow, that's bold.
Oh, yeah, and Jarman.
He laughed him out of the room.
Practically. He couldn't believe anyone would even consider selling, especially to Trump.
It's an amazing story.
But Trump didn't give up.
Yeah.
Letters, calls, meetings, kept refining his proposals.
He was persistent.
That's an understatement, but it wasn't just about being annoying. He was adaptable.
Yeah.
He was willing to work within their constraints.
He understood that deal-making is a process.
Yeah, and he played the long game.
He did.
Then, Genesco hit financial trouble.
Oh, things changed then.
Declining sales, debts piling up,
And suddenly, selling that prime real estate became a lot more appealing.
and Trump, always the opportunist, he was ready.
He knew that Genesco's desperation gave him leverage.
Oh, yeah, he was ready to pounce.
But even then, there was a hurdle.
Genesco needed cash.
Right.
They wanted a 50% deposit up front.
Which is unheard of, incredibly risky.
His lawyers were freaking out.
I bet.
But Trump saw it differently.
He did. He understood that the big deposit, as risky as it was, would give Genesco the breathing room they needed to make the deal.
It was a gamble.
It was a calculated one.
And he took it.
And
Yeah, he got the Bonwit Teller site, paved the way for Trump Tower.
which cemented his status in Manhattan real estate.
Trump Tower, that project's fascinating in itself.
It is.
You see the changing global economy reflected in it.
Yeah, investors from all over the world.
They wanted a piece of that iconic building.
Oil sheiks to European investors, they were all buying in.
It's like he tapped into this global market that was so eager to be part of New York's comeback.
He understood international trends, economic cycles, the motivations of those investors.
And he knew how to create a brand that resonated with them.
Oh yeah, Trump Tower wasn't just a building.
It was a symbol.
Luxury, exclusivity.
And that appealed to buyers worldwide.
He did.
The Bonwit Teller deal, it's like the Commodore Hotel. It showcases his ability to see those opportunities.
Leverage his resources, navigate these complex negotiations.
And achieve those ambitious goals.
Right, and it highlights that willingness to take those calculated risks,
Betting on himself.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. We've seen how Trump operates in the private sector,
Okay.
but things get really interesting when he ventures into public projects.
Okay.
Specifically, the Woolman Rink renovation.
Ah, yes.
It gives us a unique look at how he deals with government bureaucracy.
This project, it was a symbol of inefficiency and frustration.
Oh, yeah. The Woolman Rink in Central Park, beloved public space, but it had fallen into disrepair.
Years of failed attempts to renovate it, mounting costs, delays. The public was outraged.
It was embarrassing for the city.
It was.
And Trump saw an opportunity
You did?
to step in, show off his efficiency, his problem-solving skills.
He wasn't shy about criticizing the city's handling of the project.
Oh, no. He called them out on the bureaucratic hurdles, the mismanagement,
And then he made this bold offer,
to take it over,
complete it in 6 months.
at no profit to himself.
It seemed impossible,
A lot of people dismissed it as a publicity stunt.
but he was serious.
Oh, yeah. He truly believed he could cut through the red tape and deliver this project that had been stalled for years.
It was classic Trump, bold, attention-grabbing.
And you know what? He did it.
He did.
He brought in a skilled team, got financing from a private bank, bypassed all those usual channels,
He expedited that renovation process.
applied all those principles we've been talking about, efficiency, cost effectiveness, attention to detail, all those things he learned from his father, and honed in his own businesses.
He put it all into practice.
And the results were amazing.
They were.
He finished the project in 4 months,
Under budget.
under budget.
And to widespread acclaim.
The Woolman Rink, from a symbol of government incompetence.
To a shining example of private sector efficiency.
It was a huge PR win for Trump. Boosted his image as a doer, a guy who gets things done when others can't.
It did, but it also raised some interesting questions.
Yeah, about the role of private enterprise in public projects.
That's right. Is this a model for the future?
Or a one-off. It really highlights the complexities of those public-private partnerships, right?
Yeah.
The potential benefits, the challenges of bringing private sector expertise to those public projects.
It's a conversation that's still happening today.
Oh, yeah. Some people argue for the efficiency and innovation that private companies bring.
And others worry about accountability, potential conflicts of interest.
It's nuanced.
It is.
And Trump's experience at the Woolman Rink, it's a really valuable case study.
Absolutely.
Now, hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to dive into one of Trump's most ambitious and controversial projects.
This is the big one.
His vision for Television City on the West Side Yards of Manhattan.
Okay.
This project, it really tested his imagination, his negotiation skills.
And his ability to navigate the very contentious world of urban development.
Oh yeah, the West Side Yards, it was a massive challenge.
Huge tract of land.
Tons of potential, but also zoning restrictions, environmental concerns.
A lot of competing visions for its future.
Trump's first encounter with the property came through Franco Macri, an Argentinian developer who had the option on the land.
Okay.
And Macri, he had these grand plans.
He did.
But Trump quickly realized that Macri didn't quite grasp the financial realities of such a massive undertaking.
Oh, this is where Trump's instincts kicked in.
Oh, yeah, he sensed trouble.
Macri was making promises he couldn't keep.
Agreeing to concessions that would just inflate the costs.
He just didn't seem to understand the complexity of a development of that size.
So Trump, ever the cautious deal maker, he walks away.
Wow.
He decides not to get entangled in what he sensed would become a messy and unprofitable partnership.
It shows his discipline.
Yeah, knowing when to walk away, even from a potentially lucrative deal.
Right, because the risks outweigh the rewards.
But as fate would have it, Macri's financial troubles forced him to sell his option on the West Side Yards.
And Trump was waiting.
Oh yeah, he swooped right in.
He was patient, and he was ready to capitalize on that opportunity.
It's classic Trump.
It is, knowing how to wait for the right moment.
He understood the real estate cycles, the ups and downs.
And when he had the property, he unveiled his vision.
Television City.
A massive complex.
The world's tallest building, a state-of-the-art television production facility, thousands of apartments.
Retail, entertainment.
It was huge.
It was unprecedented in its scale and ambition.
This project would have reshaped Manhattan.
It would have.
It would have solidified his position as one of the most daring developers in the world.
But it faced some major challenges.
Oh, yeah. People worried about density, traffic congestion, the impact on the community.
Environmental groups were concerned about the project's footprint, its effect on the Hudson River.
It was a classic debate.
Economic growth versus environmental concerns.
The challenges of balancing competing interests in a city like New York.
Yeah?
Trump countered those concerns by emphasizing the economic benefits.
Yeah, the jobs, the tax revenue.
He argued that Television City would revitalize a neglected area, bring much-needed investment to the city.
He had a point.
The West Side Yards saga, it's a reminder that even the biggest, most ambitious visions face real-world constraints.
Absolutely. Zoning, environmental studies, community pushback.
The ever-changing real estate market.
It all plays a role.
It's a testament to Trump's persistence, his ability to adapt, and his willingness to engage in that public debate.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to stand up for his vision.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
From his unusual work style to his core principles of deal-making.
From those early wins in Cincinnati
To those high-stakes Manhattan ventures.
we've explored those key elements of Donald Trump's approach to business.
As revealed in The Art of the Deal.
It's a story filled with ambition, risk-taking.
And that relentless pursuit of success.
But it also raises important questions about the nature of deal-making
The ethics of negotiation.
and the role of private enterprise in shaping our cities.
As we move into part 2 of our deep dive, we're going to go even deeper into those questions.
We'll examine the impact of his approach
The lasting legacy of his projects.
and the lessons we can all learn from his experiences.
The good and the bad.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into The Art of the Deal. You know, one thing that really struck me as we were going through this book is Trump's focus on creating value.
Yeah, and not just for himself.
Right, for all sides involved.
He really believed in making sure that a good deal was beneficial to everyone at the table.
Yeah, and the Grand Hyatt project is a perfect example.
Oh, absolutely.
He takes this rundown hotel, transforms it into this luxury destination.
And it revitalizes a whole area.
It did. He wasn't just thinking about profits. He saw the bigger picture.
Yeah, he understood the potential of that location.
Yeah, right next to Grand Central Station.
And he knew that investing in the property would create this ripple effect.
Yeah, it would benefit the whole neighborhood.
Exactly. And he focused on those practical improvements, too.
Upgrading the infrastructure.
Yeah, security, attracting those high-end retailers and restaurants.
It's what they call placemaking, right?
It is, creating those vibrant public spaces that attract people.
Yeah, and it stimulates economic activity.
And improves the quality of life for everyone.
And it's funny because even though Trump is associated with luxury and all that,
Right.
he also understood the need for affordability.
He did.
In the book, he talks about creating a mix of housing options in his developments.
To ensure a diverse community.
Exactly. It's about inclusivity.
Making sure everyone benefits from the development.
Yeah, but of course not all of his projects were a hit with everyone.
Right.
Some, like Television City, were pretty controversial.
The West Side Yards project.
It was massive,
Oh, yeah, it was huge.
transforming that undeveloped land into this gigantic complex.
Apartments, commercial space, a TV studio. It was a lot.
And there were some strong opinions about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people argued that it would bring much-needed economic development to that area.
Yeah, jobs, tax revenue for the city,
Right, but then you had others who were concerned about the sheer size of it,
the density.
the potential impact on traffic, the existing character of the neighborhood.
It was a classic debate,
Growth versus preservation.
and finding that balance is never easy.
It's something cities all over the world are struggling with.
Absolutely.
And I think Trump's approach to those challenges was interesting.
He was definitely willing to negotiate,
To
find solutions that addressed everyone's concerns.
He understood that to be successful, you have to build consensus.
Yeah, finding that common ground.
Agreed, a win-win.
But he was also tenacious.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't back down from a fight,
He believed in his vision.
and that sometimes led to conflict,
It did.
but it also helped him achieve those ambitious goals.
Yeah, the West Side Yards project, it did face some setbacks.
It was scaled back quite a bit from the original vision.
But it still led to a lot of development along the waterfront.
New apartments, parks, public spaces.
It's a complicated legacy.
It is,
You see the potential for these large-scale projects to really transform a city.
but it also highlights how important it is to engage the community
Consider the environmental impact.
and plan carefully.
You have to make sure that these projects benefit everyone.
It raises questions about the role of government.
Right. How do you regulate development?
What's the balance between private interests and the public good?
It's a big topic.
It is.
And Trump's experience with the West Side Yards, it gives us a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
Now let's talk about something else that Trump was really good at, branding.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways.
He understood that perception is reality, especially in real estate.
Absolutely, and he was a master at shaping that perception.
He knew the Trump name had power.
It wasn't just a name, it was a brand.
Luxury, success, aspiration, all of that.
And he used that brand to his advantage.
Attract investors, get financing, market his properties to a specific clientele.
He cultivated this image of himself,
The deal maker.
the risk
As
taker.
the visionary.
He used the media, his interviews, his book, to build this reputation.
And it worked.
It did.
The Trump brand became synonymous with opulence, exclusivity,
It appealed to a certain segment of the market
and it helped him stand out.
in a very crowded industry.
But it also drew criticism.
Oh, yeah.
Some people saw it as all show, no substance.
Ostentation.
Very self-promoting.
They argued that he cared more about creating a spectacle than anything else.
It's a complicated legacy, right?
It is.
On the one hand, he was brilliant at self-promotion.
And his brand played a huge role in his success.
He understood marketing. He knew how to create a narrative that resonated with people.
He did.
But on the other hand, some people saw it as superficial.
All about appearances.
They argued that his focus on luxury and exclusivity created a sense of division.
It reinforced existing inequalities.
The Trump brand, it's a mixed bag.
It is.
It definitely influenced the real estate industry.
The design trends, the marketing strategies.
Even how we think about what it means to be a successful developer.
But it also left behind this legacy of controversy.
Makes you think about the ethics of self-promotion.
The role of image in business.
And the impact of branding on our values and perceptions.
It's a topic that's more relevant than ever.
Especially with social media and personal branding.
The lines between authenticity and self-promotion are blurred.
Trump's approach to branding, the good and the bad,
It's a valuable case study.
helps us understand the impact of image in the business world.
Absolutely.
And speaking of branding, let's talk about the Woolman rink renovation again.
Okay.
Remember, that project had become a symbol of government incompetence.
Years of failed attempts, cost overruns, delays,
Public was fed up
and Trump saw an opportunity
to show what he could do.
to contrast his efficiency with the city's struggles.
He criticized them publicly, offered to take over the project for no profit.
Promised to finish it in 6 months.
It was a brilliant PR move.
Oh yeah, it got everyone's attention.
Positioned him as the problem solver, the man of action.
The guy who could get things done.
And he delivered.
He did.
He brought in his team, cut through the red tape, finished ahead of schedule and under budget.
The Woolman rink became a symbol of his competence.
It was a huge win for him.
But it also raised questions.
About his motivations.
Was it pure altruism?
Or was it calculated?
A way to boost his image and maybe even his political aspirations down the line.
We'll probably never know for sure.
It's probably a bit of both.
Right, Trump has always been good at blurring those lines between business and self-promotion.
He
And
has.
the Woolman rink is a perfect example.
It shows the complexity of those public-private partnerships.
The potential for conflicts of interest.
But it also gives us a glimpse into his management style.
That hands-on approach.
Attention to detail.
Willingness to challenge the status quo.
He was a demanding boss,
Expected results.
held people accountable
But he was also loyal,
to those who prove themselves.
and he wasn't afraid to delegate.
He knew how to build a team.
It was all about getting things done.
His style was bold, decisive, results-oriented,
It worked in some situations,
especially when you needed quick thinking and action,
but it could also cause conflict.
especially when you needed collaboration and consensus.
There's no one right way to lead,
The best leaders adapt to the situation.
and the people they're working with.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about something a little more controversial.
Right.
Trump's use of litigation as a business tactic,
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to sue.
or to threaten a lawsuit.
He used the legal system to his advantage.
And he talks about it openly in the book.
He does.
He says it's a necessary tool.
In the rough and tumble world of business,
If you don't fight for what you want.
you'll get taken advantage of.
He gives all these examples of how he used lawsuits,
To get concessions,
delay projects.
protect his reputation.
But, of course, this approach has its critics.
They see it as an abuse of the system,
A way to intimidate people.
to stifle competition,
And there have been times when his lawsuits have been thrown out.
deemed frivolous.
It's a tough issue.
It is.
The legal system is there to protect people's rights.
To resolve disputes.
But it's a fine line.
You don't want it to be used as a weapon.
Trump's approach to litigation, it reflects his whole business philosophy.
Aggressive, risk-taking, focused on winning.
It definitely contributed to his success.
But it also caused controversy.
And legal battles. It's a reminder that business can be tough.
There are ethical considerations,
Legal boundaries.
reputational risks.
You have to weigh those things carefully
Absolutely.
and decide how far you're willing to go.
Trump's approach, the good and the bad, it's a case study
It raises questions about ethics,
about the limits of acceptable behavior
about the role of reputation.
and the consequences of pushing those legal boundaries.
It's a good reminder that while profit is important,
It's not the only thing.
there's fairness,
Integrity.
the impact of your actions on others.
And on the business world as a whole.
Now, let's talk about something else that's crucial in business
Okay.
relationships.
Networking.
It's something that's often overlooked.
But it's so important.
Trump, he understood that.
He did.
He talks about it all the time in the book.
The importance of building connections
With the right people.
bankers,
Yeah.
lawyers, politicians, celebrities.
He knew how to work a room.
Business is about more than just transactions.
It's about building trust,
Leveraging those relationships.
creating opportunity.
He was a master networker,
He saw it as an essential skill.
a way to get information,
Access resources.
gain influence,
He went to all the right events.
made an effort to connect with people.
Followed up.
He believed in reciprocity,
Helping others.
knowing that they might help you down the line.
Yeah.
And he knew the importance of maintaining those relationships,
Staying in touch.
sending holiday cards.
Stay on people's radar.
He knew it took time and effort.
But it was an investment.
That paid off in the long run.
It did.
But it also raises some questions.
About the nature of those relationships.
Are they genuine?
Or are they purely transactional?
It's a debate that comes up a lot in business.
Some people say all relationships are transactional to some degree.
There's always an exchange of value. But others argue that true connections are based on shared values and interests.
And those are the ones that really matter.
They build trust.
And lead to long-term success.
Trump's approach to networking, it's a good example.
It shows how effective it can be.
But it also makes you think about the ethical side.
It's a reminder that while networking is important,
You have to do it the right way.
with integrity,
Authenticity.
a genuine desire to build those mutually beneficial relationships. As we continue our deep dive into the art of the deal,
They'll explore more examples of Trump's networking in action.
how he used his connections to close deals, overcome obstacles, and achieve his goals,
And we'll delve into his personal reflections on relationships.
the importance of trust and loyalty.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two parts really digging into Donald Trump's the art of the deal, his strategies, philosophies.
His tactics.
Yeah, but for this last part, I want to shift gears a little
Okay.
and explore the man behind the deal maker, the personal side of Trump.
That's a good point. We haven't really touched on that yet.
Yeah, and the art of the deal, it's filled with these anecdotes and reflections.
It gives us a much deeper understanding of him.
Yeah, helps us understand those business decisions in a new light.
Absolutely.
And one thing that jumps out is the influence of his father, Fred Trump.
A very successful developer in his own right.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about learning the real estate business. It was deeper than that.
It was about the work ethic,
The discipline.
that toughness when you're negotiating.
Yeah, and there's that great story about how Fred would inspect every apartment he built,
I know, down to the smallest detail.
making sure everything was perfect.
That meticulousness definitely rubbed off on Donald.
Combined with that sharp business sense, it really shaped his approach.
It's like he inherited this blueprint for success, but then took it to a whole other level.
Yeah, he built something even bigger, even more ambitious,
He wanted to make his own mark,
to separate himself from his father's legacy.
while still honoring those core values.
Yeah, it's that drive
That ambition.
that sets him apart.
He wasn't content just following in his father's footsteps,
He had to create his own empire.
his own brand of success.
And it's interesting because this ambition came with its own complexities.
Yeah.
Trump talks about the loss of his brother, Freddie.
Who really struggled to fit into that family business mold.
It's a reminder that even in a family focused on success, everyone's different.
People have their own paths.
And sometimes those paths lead in different directions.
It's a heartbreaking story.
It is.
Freddie's story shows the pressure that can exist in a family like that,
Especially with a strong father figure.
and that expectation to follow in his footsteps,
It makes you think about the importance of finding your own way.
even if it means going against what's expected of you.
And Trump talks about how losing his brother impacted him,
It reinforced his belief in following your passions.
even if it means going against the grain.
It adds another dimension to his story,
Shows a more human side.
the side that doesn't always make the headlines.
Yeah, it reminds us that he's not just this larger-than-life figure,
He's a person who's experienced loss and grief.
and those experiences shape who we are.
Absolutely.
And then there's Ivana.
His wife at the time.
She played a big role in his business ventures.
He did.
He gives her a lot of credit for her design sense,
Her work ethic.
especially on projects like Trump Tower.
And the Trump Castle Casino.
She brought something different to the table,
That European elegance.
and a sharp mind for business,
Her contributions highlight the importance of having a strong team.
even in a family business.
Surrounding yourself with talented people.
It's about collaboration.
Recognizing that success is rarely a solo effort.
You need to build a team.
Leverage everyone's strengths.
And I think it's important to note that Trump, for all his confidence,
Yeah.
he was willing to delegate.
To trust others with big responsibilities.
He knew that different perspectives were valuable.
The different skills were essential.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the art of the deal, it's clear that Donald Trump's story is much more than just the headlines.
There's a lot more to him.
It's a story about ambition, about taking risks.
About family, about that constant desire to make a mark on the world.
It's a story that teaches us about business, about negotiation,
About what it takes to achieve success.
but it also reminds us that there's a human side to all of it.
The values, the relationships,
The experiences that shape our choices.
and ultimately define our journey.
And while his methods, his personality have definitely sparked debate,
They have.
there's no denying that his is a uniquely American story.
One that continues to fascinate and intrigue.
It reminds us that success is rarely a straight line,
It's about overcoming challenges,
making tough decisions,
learning from our mistakes.
and celebrating our victories. And I think most importantly,
Right.
it's a reminder that behind every deal,
Every negotiation.
every ambitious goal,
There's a human story
a story that shows us the complexities of human nature,
and the enduring pursuit of success.
whatever that success may look like for each of us.
So, as you navigate your own deals,
Your negotiations.
your own ambitions,
Remember what we've learned from the art of the deal.
think big, be persistent,
Leverage your resources,
but don't forget the human side.
the relationships,
So the values.
the experiences that shape your path.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of the deal.
We hope you learned something
We hope it challenged your thinking.
and that you got some valuable insights to take with you.
Until next time, keep learning
Keep questioning
and keep chasing those opportunities that set your soul on fire.
and lead you to your own definition of success.
See you next time.